What time is it? It's nation time.
Greetings, Jeremy Bishop, to Martha Nelson. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here as we move towards the end of our Marcus Garvey month. And I would like to also mention that along with this being Marcus Garvey month for us, it's also Black August,
Yeah.
which is a time to commemorate past and present political prisoners and other historical accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
And as we come to talk about Marcus Garvey and self-determination, two relevant occurrences came to mind that precede Garvey, and that was the Nat Turner Rebellion in 1831, and the Haitian Revolution, I think it was in 1791, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, and how do those examples of self-determination tie into self-determination as exhibited by Marcus Garvey, and what could benefit us today?
Well, like what I try to explain in the sermon, is self-determination is not just a political thing where groups and nations try to control their own destiny. But self-determination also is built into nature. Every living thing has a self-determining spirit that allows for it to grow and develop and become what it was intended to be. And human beings have that spirit in them too. This self-determination is we are determined to be what we are human beings. So we are supposed to be something. And there is always this thing that is driving us to be what we were intended to be. When you have a situation of slavery, which tries to snuff that out, they're trying to snuff out your human beingness, your humanity. And so, even under the worst conditions, when you think that you have controlled that and corralled that, it is liable to erupt given the proper stimuli. And that's what happened with Nat Turner, and that's what happened in the Haitian Revolution. That they thought that somehow they had reduced the whole idea of slavery was to reduce people to domesticated animals, but they were human beings and they were still trying to be that self-determination to be what I was intended to be. That drive was still in them, and given the requisite stimuli, it would come out. It's always trying to be expressed. And that's why Garvey's organization grew so fast, because Garvey was really touching upon something that was already there. It was already there. It was already seeking expression. It was already busting to get out. And Garvey articulated a self-determination message that was not common in that environment. That environment basically was an environment of oppression, exploitation, dependence, that we needed white folks to show us what to do, how to be, what to think. And Garvey was speaking to, we can solve our own problems. We can control our own destiny. We can build our own nation, our own world. That we're people like other people. And that notion caught fire and spread around the world a whole lot quicker than white folks, who also they believe their own propaganda, so they believe we were inferior too. They were not counting on we had something inside that was struggling to get out because of our humanity.
And I think the you talk about Garvey's ability to touch that innate spirit of self-determination within us. And I think whether it was Nat Turner, he exemplified that.
Yeah.
Harriet Tubman,
Mm-hmm.
and you talk about you get the example of how we know so much more, and I'm paraphrasing, about the Bible, which seems to not have served us in a way, for incorrect interpretation of the Bible, which does more to harm us as opposed to being knowledgeable and understanding Marcus Garvey a much shorter time from when he actually did the work that he did. Why are we miseducated in this way, do you think?
Well, we didn't have an identity. The slavery removed our identity. We had some lingering cultural vestiges and some memories, but our identity had been obliterated. We didn't know who we were. We didn't know the people that we were from, because in Africa we were tribes, we were nations, we were separate peoples. There wasn't anything such thing in Africa as black. We became black on a slave ship, where all those tribal distinctions and the national distinctions got wiped out. They didn't mean anything, because now you were either white or you were black, and there wasn't any in between. So when our identity was obliterated and we didn't have anything else around which to form an identity except for our self-determining spirit, lingering vestiges of that were passed down from generation to generation, and formulating a religious identity around Christianity. Because we saw a lot in Christianity that spoke to us, like liberation from oppression, like Moses. We saw a lot of the problems and things they were dealing with relating to our circumstance. So we started giving ourselves Christian names, and then we built a Christian identity in the absence of a natural identity, a historical identity, and we're still grappling with that. Although we know more now about our African identity and can choose to identify with it, we still have this long tradition of this Christian identity being primary.
But I think, and maybe you're saying this, I think that in many ways we breathe our African spirituality into the Christianity that we were given. Because, and I said earlier, the religion has, or knowledge of the Bible in a large way, has not done a lot to liberate us, but we really, I think, Africanized Christianity in a sense that it was able to provide some things for us.
Yeah, certainly.
And Nat Turner was a minister, Gabriel Prosser was a minister, Denmark Vesey, so many others. But we somehow, why is it that we still can't get to the essence of what Garvey was able to get us to in terms of self-determination?
Well, Garvey he was a Christian, but Christianity did not drive the bus for him. His love for his people and his understanding of our common plight the world over were what was central to him. And rather than him grafting that onto his religion, he grafted his religion onto that self-determination spirit for that, the thing that he was trying to do for his people. Garvey had a unique experience in that he was well read and he could think. He was well traveled, and he saw the same problem everywhere. He went to Europe and went to all of the libraries and saw the treasures that had been taken out of African countries that were on display. And so everywhere he went, he was reminded about the fact that the whole world is stolen from our people.
Mm-hmm.
And that had a profound effect on him about how he looked at the world. So he wasn't looking at the world in terms of Jesus and going to heaven. He was looking at the world in terms of where he has to question, where's the black man's government? Where's kings and queens? Where's Big Affairs? Like, where's our stuff? That question was the driving impetus in his whole understanding of the world. And he tried to get other people to look at the world the way he did. in terms of bringing them to the, rather than us looking at the world from our oppressor's point of view, we need to look at this thing from our own point of view.
Mhm.
And that kind of, when you start talking about building things and taking control of your own destiny, that kind of self-determination speaks to something deep within people that's already there. It
Mhm.
can be ignored, it can be repressed, but it's there. And if you start to connect to it and create a vision of possibilities that connect to it, then, you know, it's like a snowball rolling down a hill. The house is on fire. It's going to catch on and build and grow because the situation that we're in, the situation of oppression, is unnatural and painful.
Inhumane.
Certainly inhumane is because it's contradictory to humanity.
Mhm.
So it's like you go out, you see a great white, you go to the aquarium and you see a great white shark, and it's like 3 feet long. But if you go see a great white shark out in the ocean, he's 25, 30 feet long. Because he was born in conditions, born and grew up in conditions that were optimal for his development, as opposed to conditions that were harmful to his development.
Mhm.
The possibilities of what black people can be, we still don't know because we have grown up in conditions of oppression which are not conducive for people developing a self-determining spirit.
And as you say that, I'm reminded of uh, part of the discussion from last week's sermon about the enemy without, and how uh, Garvey was able to do all these things and ignite this fire in us. But they also launched an attack which kind of quelled it, destroyed him in many ways, but it quelled that spirit in us. But we, I think, saw a reemergence in it, and this is discussed in this week's sermon. And I'm using my own words now, of how we put a lot of stock in the civil rights movement and the potential accomplishments. You mentioned that this was guided. You mentioned two ideologies: self-determination and integration. And self-determination was a drive towards acceptance, which led us to ultimately look towards Black elected officials to deliver us, so to speak. And the pinnacle of that was Barack Obama in his presidency, which I think was a fallacy in terms of success for Black people. So what would be your message to those of us that are still looking towards the electoral politics as the answer for us? I mean, you lay out how that's problematic today.
Well, if you look at it as an answer, you got to look at it as a tool. It's a tool you can use to get conditions where you can struggle more effectively. But you got to understand that your fundamental struggle is to build self-determination, because until you can gain control of your own destiny, you are at risk. If you make uh, electoral politics your whole program, you at the mercy of the enemy system. You at the mercy of the people can decide to change their mind and do something different. And that's what's going on now. They don't give a damn about who's elected or have an election. They do what they want to do, and there ain't anything you can do about it because they have power and you don't. And you can talk about the way the Constitution says this and the law says that, and hey, you can't do that. And they steadily doing it because they got power and you don't.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, if you don't have an army and a navy, you don't have any rights that you can count on.
We have historically seen that once we figure out how to play the game or master the rules,
They
they
change it.
rules.
Yeah,
They move the goalposts. But
right.
we continuously go for, it seems like we continuously go for the same thing, which is the idea that somehow they're going to change how something in them is going to change that will make the relationship between us different. How do we in the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church, through our programs and best self theology, how can this connect us to that innate spirit of self-determination that's in all of us and was exhibited by Garvey?
Well, best self theology has to do with your becoming what you intended to be. So that taps right into self-determination, because we were intended to be something. We were given gifts, talents, and abilities when we were born, and to bring those to full optimal development, that is the goal, to flourish, to become all we were intended to be. That is the inner spirit of self-determination. That is the drive that we need to not short circuit, but to cooperate with and work with, so that we transcend these our conditioning, transcend the limitations and definitions that have been placed on us, transcend the negative beliefs that have been given to us, and become what we were intended to be. That self-determination is that drive that makes that possible. So we want to feed that and encourage that, and that's what best self-theology does. But then you got to use that to build self-determination in the sense of institutions that give us control of our own destiny in the world, not in terms of our personal development, but as a group of people in the world. We have to build the institutions that give us control of our own destiny. And it's like we arguing with white people about our seat at the table. They don't want to give us a seat at the table. We got to build another table. And we can do that. And when we build another table, they can't change the rules or move the goalposts because it ain't there. That's ours.
Mm-hmm.
And that has to be the attitude that we have. We have to get past this notion that we are helpless children needing permission from white people to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
We can do whatever we want to do because we are created to be self-determining beings.
What time is it? It's nation time.